So how to write an introduction. Let me show you an example first so you can know the four different parts of the introduction, and then you can start thinking about how to write it for your introduction. So let's just look at an example here. Example essay. The question reads, this is a history EE. So to what extent does Muawiyah owe his accession to the caliphate to the weakness of his principal rival, Caliph Ali? So this is in Saudi Arabia. Um, think about the question first before I go to the example introduction for this question. What extent does Muawiyah owe his accession to the caliphate to the weakness of his principal rival, Caliph Ali? So you're looking at how did he become the leader? Is it because the enemy was weak, or there are other reasons for that? Okay. This is pretty lengthy. Allow me to read this for you. Follow with your eyes, please. So I color coded it for you to look at the different components of the introduction. So let me read. Muawiyah's accession to the caliphate is a hotly debated topic among historians, with some, such as Kennedy, arguing that he owes his elevation to the weakness of his opposition, as reflected in the figure of Caliph Ali, while others, such as Shaban, arguing that his success owes itself in a large measure to the tangible economic benefits and support from Muawiyah provided for the Arab tribes. So that's like a long sentence, one or two sentences here, giving you the whole context. So, what is the context here? Well, the context is you have two perspectives. Did he become the caliphate because the other leader was weak? The other perspective was no, he just became the caliphate because he was giving economic benefits to the different tribes people. So these people supported him. So is it because the opponent was weak, or is it because he was giving economic gains to the other group? So that's the context. Let me continue reading. This essay seeks to challenge the orthodox interpretation offered by Kennedy and instead argue that Muawiyah's success owes much to the changing socio-economic dynamics among Arab tribesmen within the newly formed Islamic Empire. So, what is the main point of the essay? The main point of the essay is to research that it was because of these economic benefits. That's why Muawiyah became the caliphate. Let me continue. Purple portion here. The essay will also simultaneously explore what other factors, including the governorship of Syria, the conflict with Byzantium, the dwindling role of the answer, and the role of the Kharijites, I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing it right, played in helping Muawiyah take over the caliphate while relying on the works of principal historians such as Kennedy, Shaban, Armstrong, and Hotting. So this part was talking about how will the research question be answered? What are the different ways that you will approach the research question? Which authors are you looking at? And then lastly, this is the most important part of the introduction. This research question, it's worthy of investigation because Muawiyah's rise to the caliphate marks a significant turning point in the development of the Islamic Empire during the 7th century and beyond. It established the tradition of dynastic and monarchic succession that would become commonplace in the ensuing centuries. The role played by Caliph Ali in supplanting the Rashidun model with the dynastic model is of critical significance to this early medieval period as it created the conditions for the schism between Sunni and Shia practices. So the blue part here, the introduction ends with why are you doing the research? Why are you writing the essay? What's the point? Well, because this is very debatable because when he became the caliphate, that changed the whole Islamic empire. It became more dynastic in the succession of leadership. So let me talk about these four components. And as I talk about the four components, think about how will you be writing it for your essay. Okay. So if you were tuning out earlier, come back and listen to the four components of your introduction. Your introduction is about 300 to 500 words. as I've mentioned to you before, the introduction and the conclusion together will be about 1,000 words. So this is a good amount of words that's part of the 4,000 words. And the introduction is the most important part of your essay because from there, you can tell the reader what is the focus, what is the content of your essay without reading the whole essay. It's the introduction. I'm not an examiner for extended essay, but for IAs in bio, I focus on the first 2 pages because it tells me what will be the experiment, what is the student collecting, what is the methodology, what am I expecting here for an answer. So you really want to strengthen your introduction. If you want to be lazy with the writing, do it somewhere in the middle of the essay. I'm pretty sure the examiners are also lazy and tired by the time they get to the middle. But the first time they see the essay, they're focused on the introduction. It summarizes everything that they expect to read in the body of your essay. So let's strengthen our introduction. The 4 parts to writing your introduction are, you can read it there. So I'm just gonna mouth it for you. All right, let's start with the context. What is the context? The context, the background, like tell the reader what is your essay about. So provide the context, write theories, write critical approaches. You can even what has been written about the topic, kind of like a mini background. It's up to you how long you want to set the context, but give enough information that they understand the study. Like, for example, if I was an examiner and I read about this context here, probably not that helpful for me because first of all, I don't know the culture in Saudi Arabia. I am not familiar with their political atmosphere there. So you would want Write, write the context as if this reader doesn't have any clue about the topic. Like they don't know anything about the company. They don't know anything about this historical event. So give enough background information so they know what the study is about. Right? Do not assume that, yeah, they're adults, they know about it already. It's common knowledge, general information. Sometimes it's not. So you would want to provide those essential things for them to understand the topic. Set the context. Number 2, outline of the argument. In other words, list down the main points that you'll be talking about in your essay. So remember when you are required to write an outline, you have to have those main headings, the subheadings. So in this part, you will list down, okay, for this essay, here are the things that I'm looking at. Here are the business tools. Here are the studies that I'm going to look at. Here are the authors that I'm going to consult. So that's the main line. That's the main points of your essay. For literature, I'm going to look at these literary devices. I'm going to consult so and so author. So the main points of your essay. Again, the main points. If you don't know what your main points are, go back to your outline. That is your main point. So look at the main headings that you have there and list it down. You will say, I will investigate this. I will explore this. I will consult these renowned authors. I will have an interview, not interview, um, sorry. I'm mixing 2 and 3 in my brain. So please don't do that. Number 2 is just the main point that you're going to be talking about in the essay. Let me dive to number 3 because it kind of overlaps with number 2. So the third component is scope. When I say scope, I highlighted there the question stem how. How. So this is the how. You tell the reader, how are you going to answer the research question? So how? These are not the main point. So how are you going to answer a research question? Examples. Are you going to consult authors? Are you going to employ a particular methodology for business and science? Like what will be your methodology for business? What will be the business tools that you're going to look at? What will be the business theories that you're going to look at? Again, how? Are you going to use primary or secondary data? We've talked about the difference between the two. So primary data, usually you make that data yourself from data collection. For in science, for example, you do an experiment, that's a primary data. If you interview a person, that's a primary data. If you interview through email, that can also be a primary data. So any artifact that's originally published and you were able to access that, that's your primary data. So most likely you will not be using primary data. We will be using secondary data. Anything that comes from your research hub, we assume those are secondary data already. Um, Let me think who will be using primary data among. Keon was supposed to interview architects, but Keon is not writing the essay anymore. If you're not sure whether whatever resource is primary or secondary, you let me know, and then I'll tell you that's a primary data, that's secondary data. Um, okay, so how again, how methodology. So you talk about your methodology, and then you can also explain why this approach, why these business tools, why these data gathering, why these authors. And think through all of your essays because it's different per subject. But once you have a method, say I answer it by consulting this, you also have to explain why. Well, why do you think that's the best way to answer your question? What about this method that will help you answer your research question? Source-based, again, why this resource? Why this author? So the scope is very important because it tells the reader how are you going to focus your essay? How are you going to answer your research question? Focus and knowledge is one of the components for the criteria here. It's 6 marks. So they're going to look at your how. They look at your question and they look at your scope. And readers will go like this, will the student be able to answer the research question with her scope? And they will think, probably that's limited. She could have thought about using this. So they, in your brain as well, match your research question and how you're approaching it. Like, okay, is this a proper way to answer my research question? Are these the are these good authors that I can read to answer my research question? Do I have enough business tools here to answer my research question? So make sure that however you're answering your research question is appropriate, enough and appropriate to answer the research question. If the examiner goes like, ooh, maybe the student should have considered using this as well, then that can limit the focus of your study. So they would probably think it could have been answered in a different way, or your scope is not sufficient. Like, okay, you've written so many ways to answer the research question, but really at the end of the day, that would not be able to answer the research question. So look at the scope and think, okay, will this suffice? Is this enough to answer my research question? And if not, that's okay. We have a place in your essay to talk about it in the conclusion. You can talk about all of those limitations. Of course, it's not going to be enough. Of course, the research is extensive. There's so many things that you probably were not able to read and could have helped you answer a research question. You talk about that in the conclusion so that they will figure out, okay. They tried to consider how to answer the research question, however. So it's good that you are aware that your methodology is limited. Highlight that in the conclusion. Um, okay, so the 3 so far is context, the background, probably 5 sentences. Outline of your argument, depending on how many main points you have in your outline. So let's say probably 5 sentences as well. Scope, this is extensive, um, depending on the nature of your essay. So how are you going to answer the research question? And the whole time I'm talking in my brain, I hear a song. Maybe Ms. Duarte knows this, or some of my Filipino students here knows it. I keep hearing the song, How the Carabao in the in the da 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 da. I want to sing for you here when I read your essay. I'm gonna go like how the Carabao. Tell me. Oh, another song. Tell me how ain't nothing. I'm also gonna sing for you while I read that intro. Tell me how. If your written introduction is not there, tell me how it's not here in your essay. Tell me how you've not answered the scope. I'll stop singing. Examples here. Examples. Can you please look at the subject that's appropriate to your essay? So for literature, we're looking at Laura here and Kehoe and Ariel. So three of you. Have a look at the example, please. So how do you write the scope for a literature essay? So you will write, this essay will offer a close and personal reading of the text in order to determine the author's attitude to religion in the works. Notice for you, literature people, your scope is not so much of like who are the authors, what is the methodology, what are the business tools, because really you primarily your main material to use is the text, whatever that book you're reading. So you will say this a close and personal reading. If it's two texts, I know Laura is reading two texts. So both texts to, and then you talk about, what about that literary work you're trying to investigate. There's another example here for history this time. Uh, for history, it's always looking at different perspectives. So an example here is the orthodox interpretation. uh, Thank you, Ms. Gariarte. Guys, we're gonna expect those sugars soon in our blood. Thank you. Okay, so for history, example here in reading, the Orthodox interpretation blaming Germany and Japan for World War II will be evaluated in line with the arguments put forward by revisionist historians such as Taylor, Beard, and Buchanan. Another example, this essay evaluates the causes of the First Crusade by exploring the medieval historical accounts by Anna Comnena and back with those of more contemporary historians such as Lund Simen. So that's the scope. Those are the authors that will be consulted, primary authors that will offer the two different points of views on that historical event that you're working on. Okay. Um, what is this? Research. Oh, I only have two examples. I'm so sorry for the rest of the subjects. But however, on those attachment, the other attached file, I'm going to show you, I have there more examples specific to your subject. So you can have a look before you write your introduction, your own introduction. Lastly, worthiness. Worthiness comes from the word worth, worth, worthy, worth. What's another word for worth? On top of your head, can you type in the chat box so I know you're still with me? Worth. What is your worth? What is the worth? Same word in my brain, John. Value. The word, the value. No other synonym, thesaurus. Value. Use. That's also what I think. Um, if something is not worth it, it's useless, pointless. So this is now the time for you to think if your essay there's a point and it's not useless. Is it worthy to write? But please, yes, importance. Why are you writing it? Why is it important to write this essay? There's too many essays in the world and in the library already. Why add on to all these documents in the world? Worthiness. They also tell you this is not the time to think like, so my research is not worthy. Okay, Miss, can I change my research question? Can I change my essay? No. This is the point that we will find some worth to that essay. There should be some worth to the essay. Okay, here are some examples you can think about. Think of your question, please, before I list. I'll go through the list here. I don't know all of your questions, so you have your question in mind. Oh, or maybe you're like, wait, what is my research question again? Always put it as a header so you can keep coming back to your research question. Okay, so first, you would ask, does your question have contemporary application? So is it relevant? For example, is your essay talking about like environmental issues, talking about environmental benefit? We had a student before who wrote about Brexit and its effect on racism. Well, that's really worthy to write because it was a current political move when the UK exited the EU. Yes, Isabella.
That was an accident. Sorry.
Oh, accident. Sure, sure, sure. Thank you. Thank, did you guys, um, that kept me awake. I'm like, what? So does it have relevance? I know you, Han, if you didn't change your topic was about bubble tea, right? That
Yes,
is
yes.
such a very contemporary topic because in the past 5 years, there's the boom in that industry. It used to be just, an Asian thing in Vietnam. And then suddenly it's worldwide. People in New York are taking selfies drinking those bubba drinks. So maybe that could be what you can write about. It's contemporary. It's very relevant. It's happening right now. I like the second point. I like the second point. I think, Juwan, this is for you. It's telling that the issue around the research question is controversial in nature. Like, people have different opinions. This could also be for history. Like, because there's two different perspectives. It's very controversial. How did it happen in the past? Well, we really don't know. That's why you're writing the essay. Do when you're writing it, I hope, because when you talk about cancer, you really don't know what causes it. It's very controversial. Is it genetic? Is it the food? Is it the environment? Um, so think of your essay. Is it a controversial issue? That's why you're writing about it. Another possible reason here to write your essay. Your conclusion may shed light on other areas. So your study can help explore other topics that are probably controversial. I can think of an example here. Can you think of an example here for me, or is it for you? Think of your essay. Is this something for your essay? Conclusion to your essay can shed light on other areas. I raised my hand to my own question. Um, the business management students like Isabella, Dora, and Angel. Because if we look at your essay and we learn how that company has become successful, then it could help other companies to, how do you say it? Like, to copy or look at their approaches in marketing and promotion of their products. So it can help other companies become successful. And for example, if I write about Apple, obviously IBM can have a look, and other computer, I don't know, technology platforms can have a look and become successful in it as well. So the conclusion to your study can explain for other business companies how can they also become successful. Another one here. Investigation challenges existing theories. Uh, hmm, maybe for literature, I'm so sorry, it's cloudy in my brain. Um, we had a student write a literature essay on a text that's very controversial because the author, the author victimizes himself in the character, portraying that the nymph here in the story is the bad guy, and then the author's main character is the good guy. That was very controversial because this what the student. I'm sorry, see, I switched it in my brain. It's been too long. I'm getting too old. This was an essay that our student wrote. It got an A for literature. Okay, let me repeat that. So basically, the common knowledge was the main character is bad, and then the nymph is the victim. That's really the plot of the story, right? So the main character is bad, the nymph is a victim, and like this way, the nymph, the main character is the victim. The character, I'm switching it. I'm so sorry, kids. Again, last two characters, the boy and the girl. Common knowledge, girl obviously victim. This boy bad. That's how the plot is when you read the book. However, wow, this student challenged that and switches it. The student was saying, no, this bad boy is actually the victim here. This is bad. The boy is the victim. And you're like, wait, how was she able to twist it? Well, she looked at the different ways the author used character, symbolism to say, no, wait, if you read it closely, the nymph is not the victim. This is actually the victim. Anyway, I'm not going to explore more about that, but that's how the student approached it, kind of like challenge existing theory, because it's well known if you have a plain reading of the book that, yeah, okay, victim, bad person. Student goes like, no, let me challenge that. Let me challenge that. Here, look at these literary tools and devices that the author used, and think again. No, it's switched. It's actually switched. If you look closely at how the author has written, I don't know, several parts there in the book. Okay, last example on the slide. The research question has not been covered or investigated before. This is for many of you. I'm thinking about Christine right now. That topic probably has not been written before, and it is of contemporary application. Christine is writing something about K-pop. No, you've changed. Racism. Yes. So it's been written already. Sorry, I thought it's been written. So think about your topic. I don't know. It's not on top of my head. Is that been extensively researched? If not, then good. That's why you're writing about it. More examples here. You're probably tuning out, but I want you to list down somewhere if you have a notebook, digital notebook there, like, okay, this is my worthiness. So far from how I explained the different things that you can write for your worthiness. Another possible thing you can write. Similar to earlier, the research question relates to a core field of contemporary research. So this is currently being researched. Juan again, contemporary research. We are right now researching the different causes of cancer. We are right now looking at whether cancer is really genetic or not. Cancer is usually 10 to 20% genetic, and we keep researching, is it, or what are the other factors that can result to cancer. Another thing you can say, if your topic is important in geopolitical sense, is it affecting people group? Another thing you can write is a conclusion to your essay will offer greater understanding of the topic, or the conclusion of your essay will clarify misconceptions, existing misconceptions, probably for history here. How did that? How did it happen? So your essay will help explain how it actually unfolded. We were not there 50 years ago when it happened. So you looked at different authors, and through their lens, you write how it unfolded. So it will clarify existing misconceptions. There's more, but these are just things to avoid. This is pretty common sense. You can smile or laugh at my listing here. I'm just thinking of weird stuff that you probably will write because you like the topic. Like, this essay is worthy of investigation because I really, really like Apple company. Who cares? This essay is worthy of investigation because my teacher is an expert on this. Who cares? So many people can be experts on a particular topic. Oh, please don't get back at me on this. Don't write in your essay, this is worthy of investigation because I was required by my teacher to write a 4,000 words essay. Do not write like a descriptive essay, like a one-way argument. If your topic is not controversial, not debatable, it's pretty common knowledge. Don't. And then emotional appeal, like, because we really need to feed the hungry children in Ethiopia or something like that. I mean, that's not really the point of your essay. Like, reading that won't feed the hungry in many parts of the world. Anyway, I know you will not do this, but just in case you will, don't. Focus on these examples. I've talked about too many here. So again, contemporary, controversial, It will help understand misconceptions about the topic, so on and so forth. Okay, I ended early. Um, Now's your time to write the introduction. Before that, let me share the other document. You might find that helpful. Where it says session notes here. Open it on your page, please, and then scroll down to the subject examples to have a look at your particular subject. So I have here for world studies. Um, for literature, notice how I divided it into paragraphs. So basically, it's the context. This is the book that I'm talking about, the victim and the boy and the girl. This one right here. Have a read if you're interested about the story. So divided into four: context, main points, scope, worthiness. History is also here, color coded. Context, main points in the outline, scope, worthiness. Bio, drew on, you can have a look. Context, main points, scope. She combined the scope and main points together, and then worthiness. So business is also here. Have a look, please. We have for Korean A. Um, okay, and then Yuhan, I will share with you. I'll edit this. I'll share with you because last year was our first Mandarin EE. So I is it shared with you already, Yuhan? Rogers EE. Miss Gao is
Yeah, I
okay.
Roger shared it.
Okay, you can have a look at his introduction, but just as an example, I know children you can write better than this. I have that feeling. So just have a look at it, how the student looked at the different components of the introduction, and then look back into your own essay. Here's the problem. I have a problem. Actually, you have a problem. So I have a problem that you have a problem. It's very hard to write the introduction if the body of your essay it's not yet there. How do you know your main points? You haven't even written the body. How do you know your scope? I don't know, miss. I'm still writing my essay. With that in mind, park this in your brain, please. How to write the introduction. If you still need to work on the body of your essay, it's fine. So work on the body of your essay when you're ready, when you kind of know the general content of the body of your essay, then you can come back to this document and write your introduction. Okay. Can I please ask you to keep your cameras turned on for the next few hours? This is a safe place. Please, nobody screenshot anybody's face there. Don't pin my face also in your screen. I mean,